the story of Srila Prabhupada's life. Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISKCON, founder Acharya of ISKCON. When you go to the main temple, you will also see his vigraha. And some of you may be reading books which were written by him. There are many interesting aspects which will highlight important principles of spiritual life. And Srila Prabhupada's life is a demonstration of those important principles. And so I thought, as I share with you the life story, maybe some of you know about it, maybe certain nuances that I would share. Srila Prabhupada was born in Calcutta. And he went to school and college. He went to Scottish Church College in Calcutta.
And what should I do now?
Studied in English language. And these were the days of pre-independence. And at that time, when Srila Prabhupada was in his college, at that time, Mahatma Gandhi had given a call that we should, he had given a call to all the conscientious Indians to reject everything that is British and foreign. You are familiar with the Swadeshi movement. Srila Prabhupada, at that time, he was known as Abhay Charan De, as a college student. He also started wearing khadi dress. You may be familiar, especially that generation, whoever was sympathizing with the freedom movement, it was an important statement that they would wear only khadi dress. I remember my grandfather used to wear only khadi dress. I remember as a small kid seeing him. So Srila Prabhupada started donning khadi dress, and he went to the college, he studied, went to the final exams, the results came, he was very successful, one of the bright students, but refused to take the degree from the college because it was a Scottish Church college. So you can imagine that was the fervor in the country. There were many nationalist leaders in the country. Gandhi, Nehru, Tilak, Bose, many others all over the country. And soon after his education, there was a family acquaintance, and he started working in a Dr. Bose labs. It was a pharmaceutical lab in Calcutta. And after just a few years, because it was a family acquaintance business, he was risen to be made a general manager or something of that kind. This was in the 1920s. Abhay Charan had a friend, close friend. And after that, at certain point, Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan got married. And so around 1920s, early 20s, Abhay Charan had one friend, and that friend came and told him, I've come across one sadhu. I want you to come and meet that saintly person. And Abhay Charan was not too keen, and he said, no, I don't want to meet any saintly person, and I don't think too high of them. My father is a very religious man, and whenever he sees someone who looks like a sadhu, he will bring home and feed them and give them some charity. And I have closely watched them, and no. You know the kind of a cynicism that exists? It was there in 1920s also. It's very sad our profession has this kind of a bad name. Yes, it is a fact that there have been people who have misused the respect that sadhus get from people and exploited people. And so, naturally, there is a certain kind of a concern and fear in getting associated. So Abhay Charan also had that kind of a response when his friend first told him, I want you to come and meet one sadhu. A few days later or so, the friend kept insisting, no, don't, please come, I have met him, he's a very saintly person. And Abhay was refusing. One evening, when they were taking a walk, his friend again brought up this matter, and he said, just for my sake, please come. And practically dragged him. And they were there, the two young boys, both were about the same age. And at that time, Abhay must have been around 25 years or so. 1922, this happened. It was Ultadanga Street. There was a 2 or 3 story building. They walked up to the terrace, and on the terrace, the cool evening, and at the far end, there sat a sadhu, a saintly person. He was in saffron robes of a sannyasi. He wore bifocals, and there was a big book in front of him. And there was a small gathering of people sitting in front of him. And he was speaking. Sometimes he would speak Bengali, sometimes he would speak in English, and sometimes he would quote verses from Sanskrit or look at the big book and read something from the book. And his English was very Victorian English. And just at that time, these two young boys, Abhay Charan and his friend, they walked into that assembly, and being respectful as it is in India, seeing that he was a sannyasi, the two young boys offered their pranams, and they were just rising to sit. At that time, the sadhu looked at them and said, young men like you should dedicate your life to spread the message of Krishna all over the world. And Abhay and his friend were just sitting, and they were surprised to hear that how this sadhu is telling the frame of mind of Abhay at that time, not too sure about all these people. And then he was surprised that I hardly know him, and he's telling what I should do with my life. That kind of a thought was there, but then he just sat there and was hearing. And the discussion went on for a while. And Sadhu was speaking. And then at some point, the Sadhu asked, any of you have any questions? And Abhay Charan raised his hand. And he said, you are saying that we should spread the message of Krishna all over the world. But the most important thing today for our country is to get independence. We are a slave nation, ruled, dominated by foreigners. The pressing thing, the most important thing is to get freedom. Which was naturally the national consciousness in the country, because at that time poets in different parts of the country would write poems about the importance about the freedom movement. Singers would sing songs, and sometimes those songs would get banned. So that was the national fervor. That was the dominant thinking in the minds of all respectable Indians. So naturally Abhay Charan, being influenced by those things, and already he had declared himself by wearing a khadi dress that he was a supporter of the freedom movement, and naturally he raised this kind of an objection. So the sadhu who was sitting there keenly heard and said, spreading the message of Krishna is so important. It cannot wait for the change of regimes. In this world, dynasties come, rise and go. These things keep happening in this world. But the message of Krishna is so important. It has to reach people. Message of Krishna addresses the fundamental issues of life, and it cannot wait for any change of kingdom, rulers, kings and governments, and so on. He went on to elaborate. Srila Prabhupada much later recalled that conversation, and he would later on tell us what actually the arguments that sadhu gave to him. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 13th chapter, Krishna mentions these attributes, these qualities constitute knowledge, and anything besides this is ignorance. And one of the points that Krishna mentions is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshana. He was pointing out the realities of human life and the inescapable realities of human life. And that is, one, these are the inescapable realities of human life, which we don't like and which brings miseries to us. Like one of them, Krishna is listing, one of them is disease. Who likes to be diseased? We all like to remain healthy. Just as we sit here today, just let's take about 5-kilometer radius of this temple. There are many hospitals and there are many people in the hospital. There are many hospitals with an intensive care unit and there are many people inside the intensive care unit. And I'm sure you all will agree with me, they are not very happy to be there. There are people in the intensive care unit. There are people, family members waiting outside. Very sad faces. And people in the intensive care unit, tubes and electrodes connected to big instruments, and none of them desire to be there. No one likes to go to a hospital. No one thinks like that. Hey, for last 6 months I haven't been to a hospital at all. I must go sometime and see. Does anyone think like that? I haven't been to an ICU for a long time. I must go get admitted. Nobody thinks like that. Who wants to be there? You may think that I haven't been to a mall somewhere for a long time. I must go and see. Not to the hospital. And remember, we have no say in deciding whether we will be in the hospital or outside the hospital. We can't make that determination. Some people are in the hospital. Some years ago, I was reading one article in a magazine. And that article was describing about various new modern day ailments. Because our modern life has changed and very hectic, stressful, young people under so much stress and all those kind of things we are reading in the papers. And so there are newer diseases which were not prevalent some years ago.
Be quiet and listen.
And then the article also said that there are old diseases for which doctors had already found the cure and scientific advancement was so much that already knew how to manage those diseases. But those bacteria and viruses have undergone mutation and they have become drug resistant and they are coming back. Right? We read about all these kind of things. And then the article described of all these different diseases, and then it said, you may say that this is an age of computers, this is an age of space age, and all these internet and information, but actually it's an age of epidemics, was the thing that the article was talking about. So, there are diseases, and none of us want those diseases. That is why Krishna is using the word dukkha dosha anudarshanam. This is the effect of our existence in this world, and it brings miseries to us. It is dukkha and it is dosha. We want to be happy, but these are hard realities of life. The second thing that Krishna is mentioning that we should recognize is old age. No one likes to get old. We like to remain young, energetic. And if hair is turning grey or something, we get a little worried. We want to remain young. But with every rising and setting of the sun, we are becoming older by a day. And we are all here to celebrate the new year, which means we have all become 1 year older than we were last year. And there is no way to control this. Can we slow down this a little bit? No. We cannot slow down. We are aging. This is another reality. And remember, when we get old, or we may have old people in our homes, or we might have had old people in our homes, it's not a very pleasant experience. Different kinds of pains and this and that, and kind of a loneliness. Some years ago, we had one in Akshaya Patra. We had an advisory board member in Delhi. He was a very influential person. He was a CBDT board member, Central Board of Direct Taxes. And the chairman of that was the finance minister of the country. And he was very influential. And he would call up and fix meetings with some of the biggest industrialists in the country. And we would go and we would get an opportunity to meet them. So he was very influential. So one day, yes, there are some seats here in the front if you wish. Oh, there are seats there too. So he was very influential, and he put us in touch with many big industrialists who became donors of Akshaya Patra. And about two or 3 years back, I got a call from that person, and then he was not in the board of advisory members after some years. So for about 4 or 5 years, I lost touch with him, and then suddenly I got a call from him, and he said, "Swamiji, when you come to Delhi next time, can you come and meet me?" And I said, "Yes, surely I'll come. How are you? You come and see me." I said, "Okay," and I disconnected, and the next opportunity I was going to Delhi. I made it a point that I should go, and his house had changed because at that time he was in the government quarters and now he was in some other place. So I searched and went to his house. And then he was there, and his wife was there, and only 2 of them, and was sitting in the living room. And then he told me, "Swamiji, come and sit here." And he made me sit very close to him. And I was seeing him after about 5 or 6 years. But in that 5 or 6 years, it looked like his health had deteriorated and his age was showing, and he was very emaciated and very weak and speaking slowly. He made me sit next to him, and he held my hand and he said, "Swamiji, you are people very close to God. Please pray to God that I die very quickly." I said, "What? What is this? What are you saying? Please tell me what happened." Then he started describing, "Swamiji, I've got one kind of a back problem, and I cannot stand, it pains a lot. I cannot sit, it pains a lot. I cannot lie down, it pains. In every posture of my body, it is painful. And I constantly have to take drugs as painkillers, and I have tried all the different treatments, nothing is working. And it is so painful, and because of all the painkillers that I'm taking, I'm having ulcers in my mouth, in my stomach, I can't take normal food, and so on and so on." Just see. Some time ago, the person I knew him was that we would just go and tell him, "Please, can you please connect us to so?" "Yes, yes, Swamiji," and they would make a phone call, and very influential. And now he was in this state, and he is well placed. Sons are abroad, daughter is in Bombay, and so on. And But this is what is happening. So, old age is also another source of misery and an inescapable reality and another defect of existence in this world. And the third thing that Krishna talks about is death. No one likes to die, and we all have to experience that. And so much so, in fact, when I first came in touch with Krishna consciousness when I was in college, and then I started reading some of these books from the Gita and other things, I went back home and I started telling my parents about old age, disease, death, all that. And I remember my mother would say, "Shh, it's after 6 o'clock in the evening. We are not supposed to talk about death." You see how it is? We don't even want to talk about it. We don't want to even address that. But just because we don't address that, we don't talk about it, it won't go away. Isn't it? Just like that saying that the cat comes in, looks around, there's nobody in the kitchen, finds a milk pot, worried and fearful somebody will come, but then closes its eyes. And once I close my eye, there is no danger at all. Right? That kind of a thinking. That's okay for a kid cat, but not for human beings. It's a fact of life. So, Krishna is talking about disease, old age, death, and after death, there is rebirth, according to our understanding. So, Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Anudarshanam means to look at this world in this way. In other words, Krishna is saying that these are the hard realities of life, which is inescapable, which brings misery, which we don't like, but all of us have to experience this. And usually we think that if we have a lot of money, if we have property, if you have good position in the society, if you have a good bank balance, etc., 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 then I will be insulated from all these problems. But actually, it's not true. A common man, a poor man, a rich man, educated man, uneducated man, famous man, ordinary man, powerful man, powerless man, everybody has to go through these things. These are inescapable to everyone. And whether Britishers are ruling, Mughals are ruling, Hindu kings are ruling, BJP is ruling, Congress is ruling, whatever the ruler is, we all have to go through this. This is the hard reality. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is addressing these issues. Now you see how fundamental these issues are. And Krishna is saying, there is a solution for this. Krishna says in the, sometime back I was sharing with someone else, just last week, I was in Lucknow. We have a kitchen there, Akshay Patra kitchen, and we are feeding children there. And so there was some VIP visiting us, and so I also had to be there. So there is a devotee family,
ఆమెను ఎప్పుడు
and so they invited us to be in their, to be in their home. And so we were staying in their home. And you know, it's very cold winter now. So next morning was the program, and so slept. And about 2:30 in the morning, I heard some, you know, you get these stray dogs howling, that kind of a sound. And I was woken up, and the windows were all tightly shut, and I just heard some wailing and howling kind of some. I said, okay, some stray dogs, and then back to sleep. Then again at about, after some time, again I was woken up by wailing, and this time it was even louder. So I got up, and then I didn't know what to do. I was in the room, and I was trying to hear. And then the windows were all tightly shut. I opened it, and then opened the window. It was a blast of cold air. And as much as the blast of cold air was the blast of this wailing. And now I could make out there was a male voice, one or two male voices, and one or two female voices, and there were one or two children's voices wailing loudly.